look here, I have my own journal. I love it. This setup has helped me in the past 5 years. And it's just the three things that are important to me, not your to-do list, but what really matters. Something that you're grateful for, something that you're proud of, something that you dream of, and something that you pray for. Something simple but effective. And I also have some cute notebooks because I love journaling. It's been a major tool in my mental health journey, and you can find it at lifewithfrancy.com/shop. Hello and welcome to Life with Francy podcast, a place where you will find all kinds of conversation like mental health, self-love, self-care, trauma, hobbies, and more. With this podcast, I want to create a place where we support one another in business and personal life. Hope you enjoy this episode. Now, let's get the show started. Today's conversation was thanks to PodMatch, a place where you can find resources and tools for podcast for anybody in the podcasting world as a podcast host or as a podcast guest. Now, on today's episode, I have the pleasure to talk to Susan Gold, who is magical, quoting from her bio, navigating a ferociously challenging upbringing while bravely moving forward as an adult to face ingrained, outdated, and a no, I'm gonna get to know her because I can't read my own handwriting. This is horrible. I need to work on it. Hi, Susan. Welcome to the show. Tell us about you.
Hi, Francie. First, I'm just so happy to be here with you and your presence. And thank you for your devotion of the last 2 years, bringing this incredible production and this valuable content to your listeners. I really value what you're doing. So thank you.
Oh, thank you. That means a lot. So tell us, what is life with you?
Yeah, I had a very successful career in the entertainment industry, the business side of it. I became known for matching celebrities to brands, and that skill set helped me break into television producing and then producing for film as well. But there was a real call in my heart to find my mission, find my purpose. What was it? I really didn't think it was producing reality television by the end of it. And I was urged to write a book by an Irish seer, and I promptly shoved that under the closest carpet, Francie. But ultimately, two intuitives told me back to back, you have a book to write. And the last intuitive told me, you have 3 books to write. So I thought, before it becomes a whole library, I guess I better get going. And what I've come to discover is I've had a pretty interesting life with a lot of experiences, but it began in a very chaotic home. My dad is a genius astrophysicist, but he also had an issue with the drink. And my mom self-soothed. She had 5 children before she was 30, and she self-soothed by overeating with food. And back then, they prescribed diet pills, which I understood in my 20s when my own issues started to rise, that diet pills were straight speed. So let's just say my platform for health growing up in the middle of 5 with 2 pseudo adults at the helm was not the healthiest. And it did lead me to create my own trauma and drama as a young adult living in New York City. My dream was to get out of my tiny little town and make it to New York City, which I did. But it surfaced pretty early. My relationships were becoming very dramatic. And I also was needing alcohol as a crutch. And I also was experiencing similar depressions that I saw in my mom. So I had to address all these things as I walked through my adulthood. And so I've taken the time to write a book called Toxic Family: Transforming Childhood Trauma into Adult Freedom. because I feel we come in with this toxicity in our ancestry, in our heritage. It's never discussed, it's never talked about. Each generation taking on their own load and weight. And my parents, I love them both dearly. They were hurt and abused children, raising hurt and abused children. So I feel I found my mission and purpose in creating conversation around such a taboo topic with love and appreciation to help us all transform that trauma that may not even belong to us.
Oh my gosh. Oh, that's why I felt a connection with you. I absolutely love that. And I'm definitely checking that book out because not a lot of people talk about toxic families and growing up and how the effects, and in a positive way, because I love how you say, you love your parents. I love mine. Well, not the biological father in other ways, but anyways, my mom and my stepdad, they did the best that they could with what they had. And yeah, I that's why I have the podcast, to have open conversations of things like that people don't talk about. And can you share more about it in your story?
Well, I really want to encourage your listeners, if they're interested and they feel like this topic might resonate with them, go to my website, which is susangold.us, and there's lots of freebies there. There's an audio snippet to the preface of the book, and you can listen to it and see if it might be for you or not. But I just feel privileged because my household was violent. It was more than just chaotic. And I knew I needed to escape, and I planned and plotted. I used to dream about Barbara Walters on my beanbag on my belly in my basement, watching her interview all these celebrities. And I wanted to go to New York City and be like her. And like I mentioned, I did end up in New York City, and I didn't make enough money working for this big glossy talent agency I was working with. And I personal trained people exercise on the side, and Barbara Walters became a client. So I'm a huge manifester, and coming from this home I did gave me some incredible tools and left me with an empty toolkit in certain compartments. So as an adult, I've needed to learn about the pockets of trauma inside my being and how they play out in my present and ways to release them. Talk therapy was really helpful initially, but ultimately it led me square back to where I started. And I needed to find other somatic modalities. Somatic meaning feeling within my body. My body responds and holds on to emotion and trauma. And I needed to learn how to unwind that trauma. My central nervous system was working on overdrive. I was like a little rat in a maze, yearning and desiring and earning accolades from the outside in to feel safe. And ultimately, that backfired.
Wow. And so, how do you deal with that and now come about to having your mission and sharing it with others?
Yeah, well, writing the book was the first step. And the universe works in wondrous ways, doesn't it? I lived in New York City and I lived in Los Angeles, and I thought I'd make California my home, but I was reassigned to rural Montana, Francie. And the sky is expansive, as they say, and nature is so beautifully present. So it's given me time to really ground and do the rest of the work that I need for myself. I continue on a daily basis, and then to share that with others that I work with, helping them move through similar traumas that I've experienced.
Oh, okay. So So I know talking about trauma, it's not easy for a lot of people, but I love that you are sharing your story. How has trauma affected your life?
Well, it seems like it's a buzzword now, Francie, and even as a global community, we all see trauma is playing out on a very large scale. And I believe the word trauma is much more than a buzzword. I think that it's something that we've carried generation after generation. And for me, it's impacted every level of my being. The trauma of my childhood added to create a false persona where I was living from the outside. And all I wanted to do was appease the fighting, the brutality, the cruelness. I knew it wasn't okay at a very young age. And as a result of that upbringing, I carried post traumatic stress, complex as it was. And I too had to clean up from depending on alcoholism, on food, on exercise to prove my value and my worth from the outside in. And I too was clinically depressed. I had suicidal ideation from 6 years old on. There's a little audio snippet, and it's the preface to the book, and it's that episode. And I know a lot of us struggle, and I struggled off and on for 10 years with clinical depression until I learned how to work with it, till I could see the signs and the symptoms and get off that elevator a little sooner than it hit ground floor. I went through a very traumatic divorce, and I never thought I would, Francie. I wanted my family to stay together no matter what. But what I realized was, again, I was getting my value from the outside, from my husband, rather than from the inside. And I call him my greatest guru as a teacher because he was. Ultimately, he folded his arms and said, I'm hiring an attorney and I'm filing for divorce. And that was the magic of the universe doing for me what I could not do for myself. I was feeding a beast that was never full. And I was being drained of my own vitality and energy. My husband just had difficulty coming from a place of integrity. And when I tried to create that legally with the structure, he rebelled. And it was 1 calendar year of going through the process of a divorce where he held court in the master bedroom of a home I had purchased for our family and maintained. And I, by choice, took a mattress and went into a partial conversion in our garage. And I held no contact for 1 year within that domicile, meaning no verbal contact and no eye contact. And I went deep within my own being as an empath to explore my own trauma that was historic, that allowed me to be in a partnership that was like that. And it took that billboard, that clear billboard, to fall on my head. That was a perfect metaphor for the relationship to help me see clearly what I was allowing. And that experience, though excruciating, gave me the reflection of my own power, my own integrity, and ultimately helped me find my own love of myself. And that's why I call my ex-husband my greatest guru and teacher. So those are some of the ways that trauma has affected me. And now I've come to see it as a great gift in a bizarre package. And it's a great opportunity for soul evolution. I could have played victim in that marriage and certainly could have played victim in that divorce process. But I stood up and I said, there's meaning and purpose. And this is the universe doing for me what I cannot do for myself. And ultimately, it was a gift.
Wow, I love your perspective, because it is our greatest pain, hard season, dark season can be the most teachable moment. For me, I always share that my biological father gave me a PhD on every single type of abuse for me to help others that have gone through it and don't have, the brave energy, just to come out and say it out loud. It took me over a decade to speak on my trauma so I can understand. So I love it. Your mission is necessary. And thank you so much, for sharing your story with us. Uh, do you have any advice for somebody dealing with trauma right now?
I do. First of all, I want to reassure you that you are not alone in your experience, and that once you're awake to it and can accept the fact, it's time to reach out for support and for help, because you have worth and you have value and you have purpose. Francie, I am here to help others along so that they in turn can help the next human being along who's in pain and suffering. We're a community. We're all human beings walking this earthly trudge, and sometimes it's very difficult, but we're not alone here. And there is meaning and there is reason. So just hold on for the miracle if you're suffering.
Oh, I love those words, and I'm sure gonna replay them over and over once the interview goes live. Is there anything else that you would like my listeners to know about you or your mission?
I just want to encourage you, if you feel moved, to reach out, go to susangold.us, get on the email list for our newsletter. And I welcome everyone to have a one-to-one chat with me. I'd love to hear your story. Our stories are so important and meaningful. So please take advantage if you feel an urge to connect with me. I'm here waiting.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show. Thank you so much for listening to another episode of Life with Francy podcast. You can find my show on every major platform as well as my YouTube channel. You know the deal. Like and subscribe. And if you feel up to it, leave a review. Help this girl out. Anyways, hope you have a blessed day. Bye bye.